For decades, gardeners and farmers have been sold the idea that expensive, high-tech compost systems are the only way to get rich, fertile soil quickly. But history tells a different story. Long before machinery, our ancestors developed simple, no-turn compost methods that transformed raw plant and animal material into soil gold without constant labour. These techniques relied on observation, layering, moisture control and patience, producing soil that rivals, even surpasses, modern mechanised systems. By understanding the principles behind no-turn composting, you can achieve faster results, save time, and create fertile beds with minimal effort. No-turn composting works because it leverages natural decomposition cycles. Unlike mechanized systems, which rely on agitation to accelerate microbial activity, no-turn composting allows microbes to colonize and work through the material at their own pace. Historical gardeners understood that the right combination of greens, browns and moisture, carefully layered, creates pockets of heat and microbial hotspots naturally. In practice, this means alternating layers of nitrogen-rich material like grass clippings or manure with carbon-rich material such as leaves, straw or woody scraps. By simply maintaining the right moisture level and allowing layers to interact over weeks and months, decomposition occurs evenly, producing nutrient-rich humus without ever lifting a pitchfork to turn the pile. Moisture management is more important than frequent turning. Ancient gardeners observed that too dry and decomposition stalls, too wet and anaerobic bacteria dominate, creating odour and slowing nutrient release. In no-turn composting, the trick is to keep the pile like a wrung-out sponge, moist to the touch, but not dripping. Watering lightly during dry spells or covering piles during heavy rain ensures consistent microbial activity. Historical composting pits in Europe and Asia often incorporated straw or other fibrous layers to wick moisture evenly through the heap. Modern gardeners can replicate this by checking piles weekly, adding water or dry material as needed, and allowing the natural layers to balance themselves, eliminating the need for constant agitation. The structure of the pile itself generates heat and accelerates breakdown. Ancient composters understood that size and layering matter more than turning. Tall, dense piles create internal heat through microbial metabolism. As long as the base is adequately insulated and moisture levels are maintained, the center of the pile reaches optimal temperatures for decomposition. In no-turn composting, this internal heat is sufficient to process plant material quickly, often matching the speed of small-scale tumblers or rotating bins. Practical application involves building piles at least 3 to 4 feet high, layering material carefully and letting nature do the work, checking only to maintain moisture or add additional layers. Now, incorporating soil or aged compost really does accelerate the process. You know, historical accounts describe gardeners and farmers adding a thin layer of soil or old compost between layers of fresh material. This clever practice introduced microbes directly into the pile, jump-starting decomposition and increasing the diversity of soil life. Modern gardeners can absolutely replicate this by spreading a thin layer of finished compost or healthy garden soil between their greens and browns. Not only does this speed up nutrient cycling, but it also improves the quality of the final compost, creating a product rich in microbial life, humus and nutrients. Something that fertilizes gardens far more effectively than those sterile, mechanized outputs. Patience and observation replace mechanical intervention. No-turn composting succeeds when you monitor rather than manipulate. Historical gardeners observed colour changes, temperature and odour to determine when piles needed minor adjustments, rather than turning them mechanically. For modern gardeners, this means checking piles weekly, noting hotspots, adding water or dry material as necessary, and layering new material carefully. Over time, the pile becomes uniform in texture and rich in nutrients, producing ready-to-use compost in roughly the same time frame as mechanized systems, without the noise, cost or labor. The broader lesson is that nature does the work if conditions are right. Mechanized composting appeals because it promises speed and control, but it often overlooks what historical gardeners understood intuitively. The right materials, moisture, layering and patience create perfect compost without constant intervention. No-turn composting teaches us to trust microbial life, observe patterns, and create environments that work with natural processes rather than against them. By embracing these principles, you can reduce labor, costs, and energy inputs while producing superior soil. No-turn composting is accessible, low-cost, and highly effective for modern gardens. It requires minimal tools, no electricity, and can handle a wide variety of organic materials. By replicating the techniques of historical gardeners, layering, managing moisture, and adding microbial inoculants like soil or finished compost, you produce fertile soil that enhances plant growth, improves water retention, and supports long-term soil health. For gardeners and small-scale farmers, this method offers both sustainability and efficiency, turning what is often considered a tedious chore into a simple, productive process. If you want to uncover more historical and practical techniques that save labour while boosting productivity, subscribe to Farm Logic, share this video with fellow gardening enthusiasts, and join us in rediscovering the strategies that made generations of gardeners and farmers successful without expensive systems.